All right. Well, thank you for joining me once again. This is Glenn Monroe. You know, the Roman gnome, the Ozark Laplander. Thank you for joining me again. This is, I guess I'm going to go ahead and do a part 2 of your basic shelter components, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. But yeah, I'd like to thank you for joining me for this part of Canopy, Cordage, Cape, and Cover. And so part 2, I'm going to go ahead and cover, well, let's see. Remember last time I told you the weather's going to change because it's becoming fall. Now we have a major hurricane coming up the Gulf Coast this way, and it's bringing some rain here in the Ozarks. And I told you, well, basically yesterday, that we're expecting some rain, quite a bit. So it rained a couple inches this morning. The wind's picking up. We've had some possible funnel action just down south of here. And here we go with the basic shelter components again. You're going to have something, first of all, called your natural canopy. Okay, so let's go ahead and cover the canopy part. Here in the Ozarks, we have something called trees. You know, you're familiar with trees, right? Trees? Well, trees have something called, where I'm from, called the canopy. That's called the natural canopy. So if you get someplace that has trees, preferably I like coniferous trees and deciduous mixed. I like a mix. See, I usually camp out in the deciduous part, and I go in foraging in the deciduous part, because I don't camp in the deciduous part because deciduous trees have a tendency to, well, they do something called the widowmaker. But I'm in the coniferous side, and we do something, first of all, called the natural canopy. Okay, the natural canopy. That's the forest cover. That's the forest cover that's going to cover you. But obviously not protect you from traffic, right? So, to make a long story short, this is your canopy. Okay, this right here is called a canopy. It used to be made out of canvas material. Now people draw on that for fun. You know, you call them starving artists, but not me. I'm going to use it for what it's for. This right here is the canopy. Okay, we have our cordage. This right here that we made the hammock out of is called a cape. Back in the day, you throw it over and wear it as a cape. And I ain't talking about Superman. I'm talking about a cape. Okay, that's cape. Means to keep you from what? Keep you warm. Keep. A keepa. Like you wear something on your head, it keeps you from what? Getting your head, you know, sunburnt, or keeps you from getting, you know, keepa. So we just call it a cape, or a keep. A cape. It's just where you keep stuff. But anyhow, to make a long story short, I think I blew that one. But then there's the second part we call, let's see, canopy, cordage. Oh, and by the way, to do this, what I got going on here, when it gets too windy and the rain's real bad, you need to lower this below the wind line. And so basically, if you're just trying to get up off the ground and have a canopy, you probably want to have, for this setup that I have, between 2 trees of just paracord or cordage in general, that gives you the capability of holding however much you weigh plus some of your gear. So you have to think about that. The paracord that I use is called, they have 550. I'm not using 550, I'm using 1100. They actually make, I believe, 4 types of paracord. Most common people that I met that know about paracord, they use 550. There's other heavier strands of paracord. I use the next one up. I use the 1100. There's 550, 1100, 2200, I believe, and I think it's 34 or 44. I can't remember. But anyhow, then we're going to get on with the part. We have the cape. Now, the caping material is usually made out of, traditionally, we have chanvre, which is hemp. It's a hemp type material from canvas ships. They used to get them off ships. You think about that for covered wagons and things like that. But once it was worn from use in shipping and things like that, it was very soft. And then they ended up coming up with something made with linen, and they would oil it. So they have an oiled linen cape, and it would become water resistant. So you can use it to shed off water. Well, the cape activity I'm talking about would actually be, you know, a throw over, keep you from getting, you know, getting cold. getting spotted, or you can make conveyance out of it. That means to carry your gear. And what I got doing, what I got doing with this cape right now is I'm using it as a hammock. Okay, so we have the hammock. So we have our cordage, our canopy. So basically we have our canopy, our cordage, our cape, and we have our cover. Now, this is a recycled blanket, okay? Back in the day, this would have been probably made out of wool, hemp, tweed, cotton. Cotton was mostly used for something called a linen, which is what I said you could probably use for this. But the linen this is made out of, I believe, is probably a corn silk. It's probably polyethylene, which is corn. So it's probably made out of corn silk and cotton or something else. But it holds up really well for now. So the cover, this is a recycled blanket. It's probably wool at best. The remnants and pieces of a bunch of blankets that didn't make the grade. And it has it right here. It says this is a reprocessed blanket. It's a bedroll. See right there? But this would have been your roll. I'm just gonna call this your cover, right? Kind of like when you're rolled up with your old lady, she's hogging up all the covers. So you have covers. There's your cover. So we have our cape and our cover. That makes up pretty much the hammock part. Then you have your cordage. Then you have your canopy. All right. So for modern times, remember we're in modern days now. So you can also have what they call a sleeping bag. This is basically a patrol bag. Patrol bag I got from. Well, I like to frequent surplus stores because they throw their stuff away in the dumpster, and I sew it back together what's damaged and I use it. This is a patrol bag. I have the black one for the winter. So I have two sleeping bags. One's when you put them together, it's for really extreme cold weather. I just don't want to carry all that, remember? We don't want to carry a bunch of crap. I hate having a bunch of stuff I can't use. Or I have to carry around, but this is important. So we'll throw this in with our, we'll just say this is a part of your cover element, okay, your cover. So now we got a wool blanket, we got our bedroll, which is our sleeping bag. We're up off the ground, and we're dry. This is keeping me dry, and as you can tell, I have my clothes hanging up here. Drying. So I got my undershirt, and extra, whatever else I have with me, and I have them hanging out to dry. They probably won't do very well because it's humid today. But if you had to hang your clothes up because it's rainy, that's what's going to happen. So all in all, you're going to have your sleeping bag. You can keep your bedroll dry, right? So that's the other part. You should have your canopy up before it starts to rain, but a lot of folks don't ever have that luxury. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to go over this one more time. So you have your canopy. This is a 6x8. Of course, this is polyurethane. It's rivets. They don't cost much. Like I said, I got this off the side of the highway. It was brand new. It blew off the back of a truck. I snagged it immediately, of course. Then we have this 1100 paracord, and I have about 1,000 feet of it, which I got out of a dumpster. I'm not going to say, don't specialize in recon and recycling of certain stores, right? I have this recycled blanket. I got this from, let's see, I'm just giving you guys hints where you can probably get some of this stuff. A lot of military surplus through, we'll just say, donations in places where they, you just help people, like free stores and stuff. But you need to be careful of something called bed bugs. So when you get this stuff secondhand, I would just go ahead and wash this really good in something, because you never know what happened to it before you got it. So be careful about that kind of stuff. Not that I have bed bugs. I just know some people that, they complain about bed bugs, so I stay away from them, and I don't get any stuff from them. But especially people that don't know any better about hygiene. I know I don't look, you know, like a model myself, but I definitely would not give you bed bugs. I mean, I'm not the cleanest man on the planet, but I definitely would not give you bed bugs. So, like I said, okay, we're going to go with, we got the Canopy, we have the Cordage, we have the cape. I said these are all multi-use items. And, well, for tradition, we have the wool blanket, and this kept me warm all last winter. Did a pretty good job. But what I did was I didn't use the patrol bag. Okay, this was for lighter weather, so if we were to travel, I would just take the patrol bag with me, or just to be quite honest with you, I just take the black sleeping bag with me and just not even use this one, because the black sleeping bag could go all the way to extreme cold weather. It's a little bit more resilient. So just for that purpose, I have a patrol bag. So the weather's going to change, and I'm not sure if I want to stay here this winter or not. Last winter it was pretty cold, but I made it, and it wasn't that bad. I stayed outside the whole time, completely outside all winter. I didn't hide inside one time, because nobody will let you. They start hitting you for loitering. So they're not very neighborly. They're here for commercial purposes, and I'm here for natural, you know, I'm here for natural interests in homesteading. They're not here for that. They're commercial tourists. So anyway, just to make a long story short, so we have the Canopy, we have the Cordage, we got our basic cover, and in conjunction with, you know, what we probably have just basically out of outerwear for ourselves, just casually, you know, especially back in the day, you would have your cape. See the cape part. And what I've done with the cape, like I said, is I made a very easy hammock. The cordage that we have up here, we're hanging our clothes out, so we wouldn't have very much when we were traveling anyway. You're not going to have very much. Why? That's the whole you know, the whole thing. Why do we need a whole bunch of crap? We don't. But you know, for well, convenience, and I don't know, I call this I think it's pretty normal in my opinion, but in order to demonstrate this properly is to show you is this is what they would probably do. I mean, back in the day, I've had family members that I've spoken to up north, and did a lot of research in the museums and stuff here in the Ozarks, and my family came here in the early 1800s, late 1700s. I got other family members that I think have been here all the way up probably to around the 1400s, coming down the river when this was all French and Lakota and Iroquois and Algonquin and a whole bunch of those tribes. Supposedly they came down through here, but something about Peoria. Something about Peoria. But as you can see what I got here, the cape's doing pretty good as far as the hammock element goes, but we have the cover. So now we have 4 things that's going to go as a part of our basic, you know, our shelter. And I always want to emphasize this is the clothes on your back and spare in your pack. If you're carrying a pack, you're going to have to extra change of clothes, but traditionally you would have just had, you know, a cape over, probably a kilt, tartan, you know, and some basic foot gear. You would have a very little belt with, you know, a little sporting bag or whatever. You're not going to have too much stuff because where you're living at is where you're from. You're homesteading, and you're probably going to have a little hut and probably a little small canoe or something. That's pretty much it. But as far as what we do here in the Ozarks and the migratory foraging that I like to do, and foraging involves seasonal travel. So for the seasonal part, we have to have travel light, something that's pretty easily to do and manage, because in case we have to, you know, strike camp or set up camp. But that's why I wanted to go ahead and go over for this part 2. And yeah, some of these wool blankets aren't going to be 100% wool. They're not going to be real wool blankets. They'll be recycled blanket parts. And so the only one I can find here where I'm at is I get the recycled ones all the time. So this is what they look like. And then you'd have your sleeping bag. So just remember, you have your canopy. First of all, you need to be conscious about what's over your head. And I'm talking about your natural canopy. I prefer the forested area. I don't really like getting up in caves and stuff and getting on the side of hillsides and getting hit in the head with a rock. So, and then we have something, like I said, our manufactured canopy, okay? This is right here. So this is canopy, this is our cordage, this is our cape, and this is our cover. So you got 4 basic things that you're going to need for getting off the ground, and it's raining. So you're going to have water coming down on the ground. As you can see, I have this set up where there's windbreak from the trees. Right? As you can see back here, I have this set up where there's a windbreak from the trees. The wind usually comes from this direction, so it's going to catch right here. When wintertime gets here, it usually goes, because the wind blows back this way. It goes like this. So I made conscious note of that because I've been here a minute. But you notice my tree area are trees that are coniferous, and that means they are highly flammable. So I have to be conscious of that. Now, if I was in the other part, say for instance a deciduous forest, I would have to be conscious of something called widowmakers. And I like using deciduous forests, but I noticed deciduous forested areas are a little bit more dangerous. It's good for scrounging around for fungi and other kinds of plants and wood resources, but it's also a little bit more dangerous. And I prefer using this. I prefer being in a carnivorous type tree area because the wood's easier to come by. It's highly flammable. It's easier to start. The trees glow. As you can tell, the trees grow closer together. So my opportunity for making my hammock action work is pretty high. But so here we go. Pretty much is you're gonna have your canopy, right? And then we have the cordage. We'll go over the cordage part here. As you can see, I have it kind of just, it's not cut. All this goes from, it starts at one end, goes down here, goes back up, slides back through, and it's all one piece pretty much. Okay, I leave it in 50 foot. You probably can get away with it. Let's see, on each side you could probably get away about 20 and 20 and 20, 40. Like I said, you got a ridge line, and then you got the line between your hammock. Okay, so let's kind of check this out real quick. As you can see, I just have it tied around, and this is that heavy duty stuff. So this is 1100. And as you can tell here, I got this. So as you can tell here, I got my toggle through there, and that's how it's holding me up. You can double it up, triple it up if you want to. It would probably work better that way, and you wouldn't damage your sheet or your cape, your Superman cape, whatever you want to call it. But that's pretty much what's going to look like. And you're only going to have, like I said, your canopy, your cordage, your cape, and your cover. Because when you do this piece here, the canopy and the cordage, that's your main thing you're going to have, because, well, that's going to create the environment for you to be able to dry off, right? To keep dry. And as you can tell, it rained a couple inches, and all this stuff down here is still dry. And you can put something down here to catch water. I already had a couple things of water. I should have got some more, but I already collected some. But as you can see right here, it's pretty dry. Just have to figure out some little a way to get your gear off the ground. That could probably be with a couple, get you a couple of branch pieces and, some branches, and just toggle them together or whatever, and just get them off the ground and hang your pack right there, right here next to you. And if you're just carrying a small amount, you could probably even hang it on this line right here, if this was a little thicker maybe. But yeah, I just thought I'd cover it on the second part of, if you're up under here and you got your stuff, your like I said, your sleeping bag and your cover, and you're getting dry and you got your stuff wet. As you can tell, I got my shirt hanging up there so it can dry out. Got, just for posterity, just show you guys, hey, guys and gals out there, this is kind of how I do it. It's like, well, when I'm traveling, something's wet, I need to dry it, or I'm washing it in the creek and I want to dry it off. I usually, as far as footwear goes, I wear most of the time I wear either a pair of really heavy duty sandals, And if I'm not wearing sandals, I'm wearing these. That's it. Or I'm barefooted. That's the only 3 ways I wear gear. And so if I'm just traveling with something in my pack, I guarantee there's going to be a pair of flip-flops in there. Okay, so that's what I was trying to tell you. The clothes on your back and, you know, maybe an extra set in your pack. But always have another alternative thing of footwear that doesn't weigh anything. And so I use sandals. Nike makes a pretty good, decent pair of sandals. So, even though I don't like promoting them.